Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, as always, Tiffany Daniels. And today we are continuing with my morbid fascination of how the major news media outlets are covering the JRC, if they are covering the overturn of the FDA ban at all. As you noticed, you've not seen it on any major news networks, but it does look like they tend to bury it in the smaller parts of their websites. So, uh, I would like to see how they are covering it. Are they including any of the voices in the neurodiversity movement at all? Any voices of the parents who have slammed lawsuits against them, or whether they are just going off the parent's word. So, we are going over today to that horrific freaking joke of a school, the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, as we go over CNN Health coverage of the FDA overturn. Again, this was dated on last Friday, July the 16th. So a lot of these outlets have been real late on the draw, and I bet you money the only reason why they published anything at all is probably due to pushback and pressure from my own community. And, they got to put in that token effort. God spare me. So, anyways, Federal Appeals Court vacates FDA ruling banning electric shock devices for treating self-harming behavior. This is from Ganesh Sethi of CNN. Of course, you see there one of the GED device electrodes. And notice, they're all like, well, that's not a painful part of the leg. As a person who suffers from constant leg spasms, which is why I'm not allowed to legally drive, even though I can work out apparently just fine, I beg to differ. But, anyways, let's go ahead and we're going to read through this. But before we do, just a few heads up. First of all, you will be able to find this article in the description box of this video, as well as other pertinent links to the Stop the Shock campaign. And as always, you will also be seeing on here the link to the Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. If you haven't already signed it, please, guys, go ahead and do. Also, when we are talking about the JRC, folks, we are going to have some vivid descriptions of, and sometimes the video clip footage of, people with disabilities being tortured. That video coming from the 2012 trial in regards to the incident with Andre McCollins that happened back in 2002. So, if you have young ones present, when you watch these videos, guys, please wear your headphones. Also, as always, on a work day, in spite of it being Sunday, it is stupid o'clock in the morning, so if I stumble over any words or sentences, I do ask for your forgiveness in advance. Alright, so on to the article. And please ignore the stupid Audi freaking pop-up nonsense. Okay. A Massachusetts school for individuals with severe behavioral issues and intellectual disabilities. They always have to say that, by the way. You ever notice that in every single article that a major media outlet has been covering this since the news came down? They always have to go with the school's word that it's only for worst case scenarios. Well, the fact of the matter is that is not the case at all. Andre McCollins was not severe. Many of the kids in there are not severe. But they want you they desperately want you to believe that. They are tapping into society's innate ableism. This idea that, but if you have severe issues, maybe this might be beneficial for you. Don't buy it. It's complete bullshit. No one, no matter what their disability may be or their quote-unquote severity deserves this. But I digress. Can continue to use electric shock devices to stop students from harming themselves and others. So they say. The media seems to regurgitate the JRC talking points in nearly every single article. The fact of the matter is, it is not harming yourself to stand up out of your desk without permission. You're not harming yourself if you're blinking too much. And then when they do shock you for muscle tension up, which is a direct result of having an electric skin shock on you, or for screaming, you see where I'm going with this. Modern media. Figure out your shit. Just saying. A federal court ruled earlier this month after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration sought to ban such usage in 2020. The case surrounds the rarely administered and highly controversial use of electrostimulation devices to treat individuals who put themselves and sometimes others at severe risk of injury. Wrong, 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 wrong. God, do you ever do your homework? You're supposed to be CNN. You're supposed to be CNN. And you have done no homework for this whatsoever. Okay, let me tell you what I mean. Rarely administered my ass. Good majority, not the 50% the JRC tells you, good majority of those kids have those devices strapped to them. And it is not a rare occasion that they use those devices on them. It is an everyday, multiple times a day reoccurrence for any slight infraction or anything that in any way could be construed as not being in compliance with the teachers. Rare my ass. Not to mention, they use these devices on them when they sleep. They make them wear them when they're in the shower. We have documented evidence of this. We have documented evidence of medical plans in which it is not just used on those rare occasions. CNN, you're embarrassing yourself. My God, seriously? This is going to be one of those articles, I can already tell. And number 2, who put themselves and sometimes others at severe risk of injury. Okay. Let's play devil's advocate, okay? Say in those rare occurrences when a meltdown is taking place, we put ourselves and sometimes others at severe risk of injury. Okay? Let's put ourselves in that situation real quick. Is the answer to then use violent shock treatment to cause further harm to the person with a disability? When a person is enraged, is it ever a good idea to provoke that rage to be even worse? Because guess what? That is what happens a lot with people with disabilities, especially if they're being abused. I still have anger and rage issues from when I was a kid. Okay? And that was just from the shit I went through in the school. This is not near the level what these kids have to put up with. Put that shit on me, you better bet I'm gonna get violent. And I like to try and not be a violent person. This is ableism, folks, and I'm going to tell you why. Because they're trying to paint this picture that the only time they use this treatment is when these people with disabilities are quote unquote out of control. That's complete bullshit. They use it all the time. It is not a rare instance. It is not just to stop them from harming themselves or others. Number two, that's not how we treat people regardless of the situation. My mom has worked in the medical field longer than a lot of those people who are staff at the JRC now have been alive. She has dealt with people who were in freakouts with various disabilities and has managed to restrain them calmly without causing any physical or psychological harm to the patient. It can be done. Also, this gives the idea that if someone is in this situation, if they are in meltdown, then it is completely okay to use this sort of treatment in order to subdue them. It is not. The ends does not justify the means, folks. That is monstrous. God, you ableist freaking shits. Moving on. The FDA and critics have said the risks outweigh the benefits. Thank you. While proponents, including students' parents, say the practice is court-approved, medically sound last resort with no viable alternative. God, you're just buying it, aren't you? You are really buying it. You're just buying it hook, line, and sinker. Okay. Really, CNN? Really? Maybe I should have you watch the 7-hour Andre McCollins video. Then you come back and fucking tell me that it's for their own good. Okay. They always use, but the student parents in the court say that it's medically sound and it's just the last resort because parents always know what's best for their child. The court always knows what's best for their child. Really? I guess child abuse doesn't exist. I guess the court is never wrong. Gee, I wonder why there's an appeal process. Obviously, the court is never wrong. Yeah. Tell that to the wrongly incarcerated. Tell that to the victims of child abuse. No viable alternative, my ass. Guess what? Medical science and treatment for autism spectrum disorders has advanced a whole hell of a lot since the 30-40 years since the JRC first opened as the BRI in 1976, okay? Quit trying to convince the world that it is literally a choice between drugging them up to their gills or torturing them into compliance. Okay? That is a straw man argument and it's complete bullshit, easily fact checked by anybody who can find a Google search engine and has half a brain. But let's go forward. In March 2020, the FDA banned the use of ESDs in particular contexts, saying the devices provide an unreasonable and substantial risk of injury or illness. It does! Skin burns, loss of sensations to where those electrodes have been put, involuntary muscle spasms. Let's not even talk about the massive psychological trauma it does. You wouldn't even be arguing this, CNN, if you actually watched the damn video. The FDA's ban only extended to the use of ESDs for treating self-injurious and aggressive behavior, still allowing their use for the treatment of smoking addiction, among other purposes. which is still nonsense. Come on. Really? If someone's shocking me to make me quit any of my habits, like say they use electric shock to get you to stop drinking coffee. No, that's going to make me drink more coffee because coffee is what keeps Tiffany calm and from mauling stupid people like this in the morning. Anyways, moving further. In a 2-1 decision on July the 6th, the Washington, D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the FDA's ban violated federal law by interfering with the authority of healthcare practitioners to practice medicine, which is a bunch of bullshit. We've stated it before on this channel, folks. Let's go over it again. If doctors are allowed to practice medicine in any way that they want, why the hell do we have any kind of healthcare laws to protect the patients in the first place? You're literally trying to tell me there are no federal laws to protect patients from unreasonable harm from their healthcare professionals. Really? Really? Guess what? What do you think the FDA was created for? Just this type of situation right here. Okay? We didn't ask to have to go over the head of the Massachusetts state legislator. Okay? We have begged, we have pleaded, we have demanded, we have brought tons and tons and tons of evidence and documented video evidence of what goes on in that school. And that state's government has continued to do nothing and take absolutely no step in protecting those vulnerable students, okay? Nothing. We went above their heads because we were left with no choice. Number 2, you do not see anywhere in this CNN article how the UN has declared what the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center is doing as torture. You see that nowhere in this article. Methinks they're trying to fit a certain narrative, don't you? But moving forward, paving the way for the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center in Canton, Massachusetts to continue its electric shock therapy. The legal issue in question was whether the FDA's authority to completely ban a device, including the power to partially ban an already authorized device, depending on how it's used. Okay, bullshit, CNN. I'm gonna fact check you. The devices in question were the GED 3A and the GED 4. Guess what? Neither of those devices had FDA approval. Neither of them. The GED 1 was approved by the FDA, but the skin shock devices in question, the GED 3A and the GED 4, were not at all authorized devices. I'm calling you on your bullshit. The FDA approves and regulates medical devices as well as drugs. And there you call bullshit to your own statement. The FDA's job is to approve and regulate medical devices. So explain to me how it is not in their authority to declare a ban on such devices in that school. Okay? All right? They have a right to ban that specific device designed by that school for the specific torture it is putting its students through. So, that is 2 major outlets that seem to be buying the JRC hardline hook, line, and sinker, who simply just threw out regurgitated bullshit from the school's own website without bothering to do any type of research into the case whatsoever. And number 3. Once again, it is another major news outlet who is only willing to listen to the parents and does not in any way, shape, or form reach out to the autistic community and the very people who are fighting this evil bullshit to get any sort of statement from us whatsoever. This is lackluster journalism at its worst, people. We are talking about the torture of vulnerable, disabled people as young as 5 years old. And CNN and USA Today could care less. They don't even care enough to do their own due diligence. They just throw out their half-assed bullshit articles and hope it is enough to appease us. It's not. It's nowhere near good enough. And we are tired of being overlooked in regards to things that very much have everything to do with us. Right. So, before I go on a further rant, I'm going to go ahead and close this out for this morning, folks. So, as always, we don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this topic. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, as Tug would say, please feed that algorithm. Please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning, as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye. Oh, excuse me.